Scott, you've only just returned. You've been out for 5 months. You've had a health issue. Can you provide us with a bit more details of what's been the issue?
Well, I've been diagnosed with a heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's when the walls of the heart chamber become too thick and it restricts the blood flow in and out of the heart.
So, tell us then how it got to that stage. This is obviously quite a serious situation.
Well, how it got to that stage was when I came back for pre-season, done the usual hard sessions, felt okay, but after about 3-4 weeks in to the hard training and started getting games again, bearing in mind we'd had the extra couple of months off because of the COVID situation, we were just starting to feel real fatigue. When I was doing any real physical strain, I was getting dizzy spells and feeling faint. So, but at that stage, the natural thing, obviously I'm a type 1 diabetic, so everybody assumes it's something to do with your diabetes, but me personally, I knew there was something underlying there, so at that point I just thought, well, we'll just see how it goes, and I still played in some games, but it wasn't until we played Aberdeen in August out there, and after 10 minutes felt physically drained, and I remember getting substituted off and just feeling I need to get to the bottom of this. I can't continue to play like this. I wasn't benefiting the team because I wasn't playing to my best, and it definitely wasn't benefiting me in terms of how I was feeling and how I could impact games.
Sky did a lot of the games early in the season, and it was kind of, a running theme that after 60 minutes that would be your number up on the board. But obviously there was a serious situation there. What did you do thereafter to then find out what was wrong?
Well, we'd done extensive checks. I obviously went to my diabetic consultant just to make sure all of that side was okay, and it was. I went to Hampden to get the heart screening again. They weren't happy with the ECG, so when that get passed back to the club doctor then got in touch with Professor Sharma, who's a leading cardiologist in Europe, but he's based in London, and that's when I got an appointment to go and see him down south.
Tell us what happened after that then.
So from the ECG, I had been told to stop training until we had got the results back from Professor Sharma. When I went down there, I'd done MRI scans, a few other heart tests, but on the basis of it, looks okay. It wasn't until we done the exercise test, which is testing the heart under stress, and that was which relates to me playing football. And on the face of it, when you're in a relaxed state, you wouldn't know there was a problem there. But when we done the stress exercise test, that showed up the cardiomyopathy, and the professor wasn't happy with it at that time.
So what were you thinking then at that point, and what advice were you given then?
Well, at that point he invited me up to his office to go through it in depth, and that's when he obviously told me the condition that I had, and was quite concerned with certain aspects of it, but if I managed certain things, then there would be a possibility that I could get through it, but there might be a possibility that could have been it. Me personally, you always think the worst, especially when it was something as like a heart condition. It's a scary thing, especially as I was down there on my own at the time. I was expecting to go down just to tick a box, and that part of things was going to be okay. So for me, it was a shock to the system. As I said, it was just really surprising, because you go to these things, you do these tests, and you think everything's going to be fine. You're a fit professional footballer, but that wasn't the case that day.
So you look at it, you get to that stage, you finally know that there is something wrong, and you said you knew kind of when you were playing that there was something. How big a worry was it, or was it a bit of a relief that you knew that there was something that had to be dealt with?
I think first and foremost it was a worry for me in terms of my football career, how I was feeling. I was feeling the worst, to be honest, and going off how I'd felt in the previous month in terms of the symptoms I was having and how I was feeling in terms of physical exertion, and on a match day, at that point I wasn't happy with how that was affecting me in a game, and I was really concerned. But we went from there. I got the news and came back up the road to see obviously all the medical staff at Hibs, and from there we arranged a second opinion and a third opinion via a Zoom call with a leading expert in New York as well.
So tell us then, you've obviously been out for a while, but what was the timescales? What happened thereafter when you got second opinions, third opinions?
Well, I didn't get the second opinion till the end of November, so it was basically 3 months of doing nothing. At that stage, I didn't know if I could train in the gym to certain exertion. I was just doing light stuff. From there, went back to my diabetic consultant to make sure if there's any way I could make that better than it was. I got the Freestyle Libra thing that checks my blood sugars continuously on my arm. So from that process of feeding the worst, my diabetes got better. Diet, all these things got better, so I was giving myself the best chance to get back on the park in terms of everything else with my health. And as a club, the club were trying their best to help me through certain situations. So it was a 3 months of kind of fear of the unknown, but we got there in the end when after the second opinion came back really positive, and that's when the previous cardiologist, the two of them got in touch and came up with a plan to get me back on the training park.
In that time in between the second opinion, did you look up cardiomyopathy and see what the issues were with a condition such as that?
Yeah, I'd obviously checked, and it's like anything, when you type something into Google, it's not usually the answer you want to see. But I had spoke to a few other people who had the same condition in professional sport, and they were back playing and managing it, so that kind of gave me a lot of motivation moving forward. And it's not the first obstacle in my football career that I've faced, so I knew in myself that if I do the right things and with the right advice, I would come out the other side.
You're doing a brief bit of research on it. You see, obviously, the very tragic situations, people like Phil O'Donnell, Mark Vivian Foy, but you do see that it is manageable and you can come back. Were you kind of comparing the two at that point, thinking, fearing the worst, but also seeing that it's not the end of the world either?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's always different because you already have an autoimmune disease in itself, so it's hard enough sometimes with just having diabetes, so to have two, I'm really need to go and do everything by the book here as well as I can. So, but for me that was a challenge that I wanted to face, and by getting back on the football pitch, I feel like I've overcame that.
Yeah, so talk us through that journey then from getting the second and third opinion to getting back on the field. What was that like?
Well, after the second opinion had went well, it wasn't a case of just like you're good to go, you can start training on Monday. We went through rigorous types of exercises, information in terms of with the medical staff, things we had to have in place, and then I'd done a 6-week mini pre-season again, stage by stage, building myself up to see how I would feel week by week and whether the symptoms or not would come back, the harder the training got. But fortunately, not had any symptoms since I've been back, and personally felt the best I've felt in my playing career in terms of the control of my diabetes, and finally knowing now that I've had this my whole career, but now I know what I need to do so that I don't have any symptoms. So for me, that's I feel like I'm in a good place just now.
Yeah, given that then you mentioned some of the things that have to be in place. With you now back playing, what do you have to have in place both personally and in and around you?
I need to be hydrated basically consistently all day. I know I'm touching on the diabetes again, but one of the first signs of having type 1 diabetes is severe dehydration. So if it wasn't managed, that would be one of the first things that would show up, and the dehydration is what I think at the time, and with the oxygen flow in my body from the heart condition, is why I was getting the dizzy spells and the extreme fatigue. So hydration, obviously my other autoimmune disease, managed really well, and a low carb diet to make sure the blood sugars are as well as they can be. In terms of the heart stuff, we need to have checks every morning, weighed, urine test to see how the hydration is. But I think with the people I've got around me, especially at the training ground, like I feel like we're all in this together, and went through the journey, started together, and coming out the other side, it's good to have the type of people there, and friends and family as well, been there all the way. But I just think something that I felt so worried about. I'll be honest, I was really fearing the worst at one point, but I was just happy at the start just to be back out in the training park with my teammates, even sharing the dressing room again. It's something that did go through my mind.
How low did you get? I mean, people talk about mental health nowadays, but how difficult did it get for you?
It was. The thing is with me, it was a situation where you could go one way or the other, but for me it was a challenge, as I said before, a challenge that I wanted to face. I didn't shy away from it. I went into the training ground every day, seeing all your teammates doing the thing you love, and back of your head you're wondering if you might not get that chance again. But I think like actually going in every day and being around the teammate, the coaching staff, everybody, that it gave me that. Well, I knew in my head that I was going to get back out on the football park.
We saw shots of you at some of the times you turned up at training, and you were there at every training session talking to the manager and watching on. Was that a case from you just trying to learn or just trying to stay involved, or what was the thinking there?
Just missing being out in the training field. It's pretty much as simple as that. Missing being out, being in that team environment, especially when I've been used to it so long. So obviously interest as well in things for after football, but first and foremost for me it was get back training again and then take it from there.
For you, getting back on the field at Hampden Park of all places, what was that like that day, despite coming on when Hibs are 3-0 down in a semi-final? I felt quite emotional after the game, obviously, because it's obviously a disappointing result, but in terms of personally what I'd went through to get that moment again, I felt emotional. I felt proud of myself, to be honest. That could have been, at one stage, if that was lesser Hampden, I'd have been happy that day. It was just back on a football pitch with my teammates, something that never take for granted again. You know, it's just these are the things that you love, and it's hard to take that away from you. Were you nervous before it, or was it excitement?
No, not nervous at all. I was just dying to get back out there, to be honest. Like I said, the rigorous exercises and tests that I'd went through, I knew that my body could handle whatever was going to be thrown at me. And like I said, it's genuinely the best I've felt in my playing career, how I feel at the moment.
You said you felt emotional. Are you the type of person that gets emotional, and that sort of everything you had gone through that you had to deal with mentally and physically?
Not previously. I think I'm one of the people that kind of bottles it up and keeps it to myself and uses certain things as motivation. But when you speak after the game and all the boys, you could tell they'd been through a big disappointment that day, but every one of them came over to me single-handedly and said, so happy to see you back out there again. So that's probably why I was emotional that day.
Scotland's a village. The rumour mill goes on and on. There's always speculation around, and we spoke quite a lot during the period you were out. But what was it like when you have to explain something like that to your young son at 5-year-old?
Well, he just kept asking the first couple of weeks, why are you not playing today, Dad? Why are you not playing today? Because he has the Hibs TV on at his house, so it's the old one. I'm injured. Obviously, that's the reason having a young son. I was dying to see him come watch me play football. He loves football too, so that was an emotional time when he was asking me, Dad, are you not playing football anymore? You're going to your son's football training. Obviously, guys have read things, heard things, and you can sometimes forget that you've got a 5-year-old next to you and they're asking you what's happening. You're not playing football anymore. And listen, by this time, me, the manager, and all that, nothing had been concrete. We had said what we'd said. We were going to do rigorous tests, and thankfully everything went well. And I'm back on that part. It's really as simple as that. I'm just delighted.
When you have priorities like your young son Zach, does that bring it home a lot more, everything you've gone through and what you want to do from now on?
Well, I think when you get news that you've got a heart condition and you've got a young son, first and foremost, the job's to be a dad and be there and not put any danger towards him. So that was a big decision, yeah, of course. But football's a game I love, and the only way I was going to carry on as well as I could as if I didn't have these symptoms. I wouldn't have put myself at risk if I continued to get these symptoms. And as I said, thankfully for me, I've never felt better.
Do you feel safer now? Because some people might think, oh, it's a risk, but do you actually now feel safer because you know what's the issue is, you know how to deal with it, and you know the signs if it starts to struggle again or it's something that needs managed better?
Yeah. Definitely feel a lot safer knowing what it is and what I need to do to manage it and make sure I don't get these sort of symptoms. For me, I'm more excited about looking forward now in terms of my football career than worrying about what could have been.
You came on in that game against St Johnstone in the semi-final at Hampden. You also managed to come on against Rangers as well. What is the target between now and the end of the season for you then? My target was just to get back in a matchday squad. It's been a difficult period, obviously, with COVID. We've not been able to get any friendlies arranged. So I've not had a 90 minutes, I'd say, like even in a bounce game that I would like. I've just trained at high intensity in training and had my couple of appearances on the park. So that's in terms of starting, that's always a manager's decision. I'm just happy to be here in the matchday squad, getting minutes coming on and working on my way to full match sharpness, not natural fitness sharpness, but match sharpness. If not, then I'll be ready to go again come pre-season. We'll definitely get the games that I need at that time. You look at your stats for last season, and it was a season that was curtailed, but 40 appearances, 10 goals, I think 11 assists. Is it a case of excited now how much more you can contribute because you know what to deal with now?
Yeah, well, I said that's the one thing. When I look at last year, I was really looking to build on that coming into this season. Obviously, I got dealt a blow with the news I got, but like I said, I've been doubted before. It's just another obstacle. It was in the way, and I've overcame that, and now I'm just looking forward to giving it a right go again, and I feel fit and become the player I know I can be.
Tell us about the support you've had from other people in football, ex-teammates, managers, colleagues.
Yeah, well, obviously, football's a small world, so I receive texts off players from all over the country, players from down south, managers from a lot of the clubs too. But I think in this situation, like your friends and family are the most important people. The people that see you outside of football, the people that help you through the good times, bad times, and I've got a lot to thank them for.
What would you have done if you had to stop?
I didn't think like that, look, because I was so concentrated, and I genuinely didn't think that I wouldn't play football again as much as I feared it, but not completely. You know, if that was the case, then I would definitely been involved in football in some capacity.
Why is it important to go public with this now?
I think raising the awareness of these heart conditions that some players might not know they have, and the fact that when you get one opinion or two opinion, one might not go the way you want it to. It's not always the right answer, but I think the awareness in terms of making sure every player is tested to the best possible quality and from each club, and because I wouldn't have known this unless I'd went for the cardiologist in London. I wouldn't have known exactly what this was. So I think that's a massive thing to know if there's anything underlying, but at the same time knowing that one opinion might not just be the definitive answer, and that's definitely been the case for me.
So if you're a footballer here watching this, you know, we mentioned some examples in the past of players who've tragically suffered with this condition and other ones that have managed to overcome it and play football again and have a good career. What would you say to players sitting watching this now?
I would say to make sure you get the best possible heart testing you can at each club. I think it can be a serious condition depending on if it's mild or if it's severe. For me, mine is a mild condition of cardiomyopathy, which some other player might not be as lucky. But also that you can overcome these things and still forge a career for yourself.
Do you ever sit back and think, type 1 diabetes, now diagnosed with a heart condition, just getting back on the field is an achievement in itself.
Yeah, when you look at it from that point of view, it's an achievement even getting to a professional level with type 1 diabetes for such a long time. Then to get dealt another condition, absolutely I do think it's an achievement. I think there's a lot of things that can define people's character, and I think me having the two conditions and still being able to get back on a football pitch definitely defines my character. I'd absolutely say that.
You come off the field against Aberdeen at the end of August, and it's 25 games until you play again. If you look back at that in years to come, how would you sum up that part of your life?
That's that part of my life. I think the thing I learned most during that time is genuinely not to take certain things for granted. And that's the biggest one. Like, it's easy in football when things aren't going your way to get upset, to throw the toys out the pram sometimes when it's not going your way, but definitely just having the thing that you love, being able to play it. If that's potentially not going to happen for you, it's not the news any footballer wants to hear. But for me, I think not taking anything for granted and valuing the people who are close to you who can get you through any sort of disadvantage that you might have, a massive learning period for me. But I think I've definitely grown as a person throughout the last 3, 4, 5 months. To be honest, and it will stand me in good stead for the future.
Third place could potentially get Hibernian group stage football of a European tournament until December. Is that the sort of carrot that has been dangled in front of the whole team, but you yourself thinking, yeah, European group stage, that's a bit of me? Yeah,
especially with Hibs, that would be an incredible achievement for everyone. And like you said, a massive carrot there. Finished third, game away from Europa League qualification, chance of big teams. That would probably be up there with my biggest achievement at Hibernian.
Just finally, what is it about this club that's helped you through? I mean, you always seem to have found a home here. This is your third spell here, but how important have the club been to you in terms of helping you out here?
Like, it's hard to put into words how well people have treated me at this club in every spell that I've been here. From upstairs to the fans, to the coaching staff, to the players. I just think I've never had a bond like it in a changing room that I've had here than any other club I've ever had. A special connection and a lot to thank this club for.